The Galactic Council classified humanity as Tier 9 on a rainy Tuesday in 3187, and the rain that day fell upward. It was supposed to be impossible on Araxia Prime. Perfect weather, perfect gravity, perfect boredom, but the human delegate, Dr. Amrita Singh Volkov, had smuggled in a tiny atmospheric prism the size of a fingernail. When the vote came down, she cracked it open in her palm. Real water, actual Terran rain saved from her grandmother's garden, rose in defiant spirals toward the ceiling of the grand chamber, while the council's 1,000 delegates watched in polite horror. The motion on the floor was simple. Species Homo sapiens, Tyrannus technological adolescence achieved, emotional volatility extreme, biological resilience, negligible cultural output, sentimental, military posture defensive to the point of self-harm. Recommended classification, Tier 9. Status, protected curiosity. Trade value, low. Threat level, negligible. The vote was unanimous in 11 seconds. 11. The same number of seconds the Council had once spent debating whether to sell the new Kyoto system to the Virari cartel for a handful of neutronium futures and exclusive catering rights at the next summit. Dr. Singh Volkov stood alone in the petitioner's circle, rain still spiraling above her head like a private storm. She had begged for 3 straight hours. 3 hours of slides showing children chasing fireflies under New Kyoto's crystal skies. 3 hours of demographic projections proving the colony was self-sustaining. 3 hours of increasingly desperate pleas wrapped in every protocol the Council claimed to respect. The presiding voice, a 12-meter-tall crystalline being from the silicate confluence, finally interrupted with the patience of a glacier. Sentiment noted. Regrettably, the economic calculus is unambiguous. The Virari offer is 47 times more favorable than continued primate tenancy. The Council sympathizes, but progress requires difficult choices. Dr. Singh Volkov's last words before security escorts removed her were quiet enough that only the front row heard, "You were told the wrong species to call weak." The doors closed. The rain kept falling upward until it hit the ceiling and vanished into the recyclers. 3 weeks later, the Virari arrived at New Kyoto. They did not announce themselves with trumpets or warnings. They simply began. Conversion ships unfolded above the atmosphere like black flowers made of knives. Planetary crust peelers descended on gravity tethers and began slicing the mantle in perfect, mile-wide strips. Oceans flashed to steam to harvest deuterium. Children in the southern continent woke to find the sky had turned the color of old blood, and that breathing hurt. New Kyoto's planetary governor broadcast one message on every frequency. Voice calm the way only parents are calm when they're lying. Evacuation shuttles are en route. Stay in your homes. Help is coming. Help never came. The Council's official response arrived 41 hours later, stamped with the seal of the Emergency Compassion Subcommittee. Deeply regrettable incident. The Council reminds all parties that Tier 9 species are not covered under full sovereignty protocols. Citizens of New Kyoto are advised to pursue orderly self-evacuation. Reimbursement forms attached. Attached were 11,000 pages of forms, in triplicate. While the forms downloaded, the last habitat dome on New Kyoto cracked open. A little girl named Hannah Park, 8 years old, wearing a bright yellow raincoat because her mother said yellow was the color of hope, stood on a rooftop and broadcast on an open channel. "Tell Mom the sky is still pretty. Tell her the crystals are turning pink. Tell her we're not afraid." The Virari peeled that dome 11 seconds later. The transmission cut to static. Across Sol System, every screen, every phone, every billboard, every retinal implant went black for exactly 11 seconds. Then a single line appeared in white text. Wrong species to declare weak. No signature. No flag. Just that line, burning itself into retinas across 11 billion human eyes. In a quiet retirement habitat on Luna, Captain Mi-Lin Park, 62, widowed, legendary for once delivering mail through a plasma storm because a colony kid was waiting for a birthday card, watched the message scroll across her kitchen wall. Her wife had died 9 years earlier. Her grandchildren were on New Kyoto. She looked at the 19 retired crew who had shown up at her door over the last 41 hours. Old engineers with shaking hands, cooks who had once fed entire fleets, a xenobotanist who still wore soil under her nails, 2 teenagers who had lied about their age, 1 diplomat who kept muttering about proper channels. The ship in her private berth was the TFS Stubborn Mule, obsolete courier, no armor, 1 ceremonial railgun that hadn't been fired in 70 years, cargo hold full of birthday presents addressed to grandchildren who would never open them. Captain Park poured 19 cups of tea, real tea, leaves grown in actual dirt under a real sun, the last packet she had saved for emergencies. She raised her cup. To the children who think the sky is still pretty. 19 cups clinked. Then she gave the order that would echo through galactic history for the next 10,000 years. Plot ramming speed. The stubborn mule lit its ancient engines, aimed itself at the heart of the Virari fleet, and began to accelerate. On the bridge, the xenobotanist asked the question everyone was thinking. Captain, we're 1 ship. They're a fleet. Mi-Lin Park smiled the same smile she used when her grandchildren asked why the stars looked sad. 1 ship is enough when the message is clear. She opened the ship-wide channel and recorded the log that would play on repeat for 31 years. This is Captain Mi-Lin Park, TFS Stubborn Mule. To my wife, I'm coming, love. Save me a dance. To my grandchildren, be kinder than the galaxy deserves. To the Council and the Virari, you sold the wrong children. We are coming. And we are not asking permission. The Stubborn Mule hit the Virari flagship at 0.27. The explosion lit New Kyoto's night side for 11 straight days. Debris fell like slow, glittering tears across a world that no longer had anyone to cry them. And in the silence that followed, humanity did something the Council had never predicted with 99.9997% certainty we would never do. We stopped talking for 31 years. We went dark. We went quiet. We went to work. The Council assumed we were sulking. They assumed we were broken. They assumed we were learning our place. They were dead wrong. We were building a middle finger big enough to be seen from the other side of the galaxy. And we were teaching it to wave. The TFS Stubborn Mule was never meant for war. She was built in 3011, back when humanity still believed the galaxy ran on handshakes and good intentions. A courier vessel, light and fast, designed to carry diplomats, mail, and the occasional grandparent to colony birthday parties. Her hull was a patchwork of white ceramic and optimism. Her only weapon a single ceremonial railgun mounted topside for saluting new colonies. The gun had fired exactly 11 times in its life, all salutes, all blanks. By 3187, she was a museum piece, mothballed in Luna's civilian berth, kept polished by retirees who told stories about the old days when a letter could still take 6 months to cross a system. Then New Kyoto burned, and Captain Mi Lin Park walked back aboard with 19 ghosts who refused to stay retired. They came one by one over 41 hours. First was Chief Engineer Ravi Patel, 71, hands trembling from nerve damage, carrying a bottle of real rum and a welding torch older than most nations. Then came the cooks, Maria and Diego Morales, twins, 68, who announced they were bringing real food because nobody wins a war on nutrient paste. The xenobotanist Dr. Hana Kim, 59, arrived with a duffel full of soil samples and a look that said she had already calculated exactly how many planets she was willing to unmake. The diplomat, Theodore Wu, kept trying to open a channel to the council right up until Ravi threatened to weld his mouth shut. The two teenagers, Aisha Singh, 17, and Jonah Park, 16, Mia Lin's own grandson, lied about their ages so smoothly the medical scanner believed them. They brought no uniforms. They brought photographs, wedding rings, children's drawings, and one very confused therapy dog named Pickles, who had been aboard for a retirement party. Mealy Lin stood on the bridge that still smelled of lemon polish and old coffee, looked at her 19 misfits, and poured the last packet of real tea into 19 chipped mugs. Outside the viewport, Luna's surface was gray and silent. Inside, the ship's ancient speakers crackled with the final transmission from New Kyoto. Hana Park, 8 years old, yellow raincoat, voice steady. "Tell Mom the sky is still pretty." Mi Lim raised her mug. "To the children who still think the sky is pretty." 19 mugs clinked. Then she gave the order no one had dared give in 2 centuries of human spaceflight. Plot ramming speed. Ravi Patel looked up from the engine console, eyes wide. "Captain, the mule's reactor hasn't done better than 0.12 kek since the Tau Ceti run of 39, and that was downhill." Mi Lin smiled the same smile she used when her wife asked if she was really going to deliver mail through a plasma storm. Then today, she learns a new trick. They stripped the ship bare. Luxury cabins became capacitor banks. The diplomatic salon became a targeting shrine covered in children's drawings. Cargo hold full of birthday presents was jettisoned without ceremony, except for one small package addressed to Grandma Mi Lin from Hana P. that she tucked into her pocket instead. They overcharged the inertial dampeners until the hull groaned. They rerouted every watt of power through the ceremonial railgun and loaded it with the only projectile they had left, the ship's own registry core, a solid tungsten cylinder engraved with every name who had ever served aboard her. Jonah Park, 16, asked the question everyone was thinking. "Grandma, we're one ship. They have a fleet." Merlin ruffled his hair the way she had when he was 6 and afraid of the dark. "One ship is enough when the message is clear." She opened the ship-wide channel and recorded the log that would become scripture. "This is Captain Mi Lin Park, TFS Stubborn Mule. Registry, number 4, Alpha. Crew, complement, 19 souls and 1 good boy named Pickles. To my wife, Sue Jin, I'm sorry, love. Saved me a dance on the other side. To my grandchildren, wherever you are, be kinder than the galaxy deserves. To the Virari cartel, you peeled the wrong world. To the Galactic Council, you sold the wrong children. We are coming, and we are not asking permission. The stubborn mule lit her engines, ancient fusion torches that had once carried love letters and birthday cakes, and began to accelerate toward the jump gate that would take her to New Kyoto. Along the way, every human channel. Wrong species to declare weak. The Council sent a priority intercept fleet to stop the rogue courier. They arrived too late. The stubborn mule jumped. She emerged above New Kyoto like an avenging comet. The Virari flagship, a continent-sized harvester named Profit Margin, was busy peeling the northern continent when the human ship appeared on scopes. The Virari commander laughed, and ordered a single warning shot across the bow. The stubborn mule did not alter course. Pickles, the therapy dog, barked once at the view screen. Meline Park pressed the firing stud on the ceremonial railgun herself. The tungsten registry core left the barrel at 0.27s. It struck the Profit Margin dead center. For one infinite second, nothing happened. Then the universe remembered what kinetic energy means when you give it 3 centuries of grief to carry. The explosion lit New Kyoto's night side for 11 straight days. The shockwave shattered 30% of the Virari fleet before their shields finished spinning up. Debris fell like slow, glittering tears across a world that no longer had anyone left to cry them. Captain Park's final log, time-stamped 1 second before impact, began playing on every frequency, human and alien, for the next 31 years. This is Captain May-Lin Park, TFS Stubborn Mule. We held the line. Tell the children the sky is still pretty. And tell the Council lesson 1 is over. Lesson 2 is coming. Then silence. Beautiful, terrible, patient silence. The galaxy assumed humanity was finished. They assumed the stubborn mule was a tragic, desperate fluke. They assumed we would crawl back to our place and beg. They were dead wrong. We went quiet for 31 years. We went to work. Every shipyard, every garage, every grandparent with a welder and a grudge. Project Middle Finger began the day the stubborn mule became a star. And the galaxy never saw it coming. Because sometimes the kindest species in the room is also the one that learns rage in perfect silence. The stubborn mule was gone, but her message was just getting started. And the next time humanity spoke, the Council would learn that Tier 9 had never been a classification. It had been a warning. In the 31 years of silence that followed the stubborn mule, humanity did not mourn. We built every dry dock in Seoul, from the great rings of Titan to the hidden caves under Ceres. From the abandoned luxury liners orbiting Venus to the kindergarten classrooms on Luna, where children learned welding before they learned long division, worked on one thing only, Project Middle Finger. The name started as a joke in a bar on Ganymede, scrawled on a napkin by a half-drunk engineer who had lost her entire family on New Kyoto. By morning, it was classified above top secret, stamped on every blueprint, whispered in every cradle as the lullaby that replaced Rock-a-Bye Baby. The goal was simple and terrible. Build a fleet that could deliver a message the galaxy could not ignore, a fleet that would make the stubborn mule look like a polite cough before the screen. They took everything humanity had ever built and made it angry. Old colony arcs, slow, gentle giants designed to carry 10,000 sleeping families across centuries, were gutted. Their life support rings were replaced with spinal-mounted gravitic shear cannons, weapons that did not destroy matter. They rewrote the rules of existence. A single shot could make a planet forget which way was down, could turn a fleet into a M-bias strip of screaming metal, could make gravity itself apologize. Freighters that once hauled rice and birthday cakes were armored in ablative grief and given railguns the length of city blocks. Or haulers became carriers for warheads measured not in megatons, but in go fuck yourself. Luxury liners that had ferried honeymooners under Saturn's rings were stripped of champagne flutes and ballrooms and given launch bays that could vomit 1,000 drones in 11 seconds. Every hull was painted matte black, the color of space that had learned to hold a grudge. Every hull carried the same white stencil, stenciled by hand because machines couldn't get the anger right. TIER9. THRETLEVLYES. And beneath that, in smaller letters that only showed up when starlight hit just right, in memory of the stubborn mule and the children who thought the sky was still pretty. The crews were not soldiers. They were grandparents, teachers, poets, farmers, the quiet ones who had spent 31 years learning how to be loud in the dark. They trained in silence. They drilled in silence. They sang the old lullabies while welding death into the bones of ships that would never carry another child to a birthday party. On Earth, school children grew up learning physics by calculating the exact velocity needed to turn a courier ship into a planet killer. On Mars, universities offered majors in applied vengeance. On Luna, every retirement home became a think tank where grandmothers who had once knitted booties now knitted targeting algorithms. They kept one thing sacred. Every ship, no matter how brutal its new lines, carried a small wooden box bolted to the bridge. Inside, each box was a single peach pit, saved from the last tree on New Kyoto, smuggled off-world by a child who never made it to the evac shuttle. The pits were labeled in childish handwriting, for when we come home. The council never noticed. They were too busy throwing galas to celebrate 31 years without primate interference. They updated their files. Humanity status contained morale, broken, projected lifespan as distinct culture, 50 years. They scheduled a quinquennial summit on Araxia Prime, a ring world of living marble and gentle gravity where no delegate had ever felt real fear. They invited 10,000 of the galaxy's most powerful beings to toast the permanent irrelevance of Tier 9 species. They set the date for year 31, day 1, 9/17, Terran Standard, the exact minute Hana Park's transmission had ended in static. They never noticed the 11,000 black ships that had begun to gather in the dark between stars. Engines cold, transponders dark, crews singing the same lullaby under their breath. Wrong species to declare weak. On the flagship, an old colony ark renamed Gentle Reminder, Captain Jonah Park, 47 now, once the 16-year-old who asked his grandmother if one ship was enough, stood on a bridge that still smelled faintly of lemon polish and old coffee. He carried the same package his grandmother had tucked into her pocket 31 years earlier, a small birthday present addressed to Grandma Mei Lin from Hanapi. He had never opened it. He placed it in the wooden box beside the peach pit and closed the lid. Then he gave the order every human in the fleet had waited 31 years to hear: all ships. This is Gentle Reminder. Synchronize clocks to 9/17 Terran Standard. Project middle finger is green. For the children who thought the sky was still pretty. 11,000 engines, lit at once, silent, cold, patient fusion flames that had learned to burn with grief instead of plasma. They did not jump to Araxia Prime. They simply arrived. No warning, no hyperspace flare, no mercy. At 9 16:59, the stars outside Araxia Prime blinked. At 9:17, every light on the station dimmed. Every view screen, every holoprojector, every retinal implant filled with the burned, smiling face of Captain Mi Lin Park, recorded in the final second before the stubborn mule became a star. Her voice, gentle, grandmotherly, final, filled the chamber like a lullaby made of knives. You declared us weak. You sold our children for mining rights. You were told once what happens when you mistake kindness for frailty. This is the second lesson. Then gravity cut out, not failed. Cut. 10,000 delegates, beings who had never weighed more than a thought, floated in sudden zero-G, while outside the transparent dome, 11,000 black ships arranged themselves into a perfect sphere of judgment. The Council fleet scrambled. 30,000 warships, the pride of 100 civilizations, powered weapons that had never known defeat. Humanity waited 11 seconds, exactly 11. Then 11,000 spinal cannons fired at once. Not at ships, at gravity itself. The galaxy had never seen a weapon like it. Where the gravitic shear mines detonated, reality folded like wet paper. Ships became impossible shapes, inside-out hulls. Crews experiencing their own after-images. The ring world's artificial sun stuttered, coughed, and went dark. Marble halls cracked like eggshells. In 11 minutes, the Council fleet ceased to exist as anything but an expanding cloud of very confused atoms. In 11 minutes and 11 seconds, the station's gravity came back online, dialed to 1.7, just enough to make kneeling uncomfortable for beings who had never knelt in their lives. Captain Park's recording played one final time, softer now, almost kind. We do not want your empire. We do not want your fear. We want you to remember the difference between weak and gentle. Gentle is a choice. Weak is what happens when you mistake the two. Then the human ships vanished as quickly as they had come. They left behind one thing: a single, small package drifting in the wreckage. Inside was a peach seedling and a note written in a child's handwriting. Plant this. When it grows, eat one peach and remember what gentle tastes like. Then decide if you still want to call us weak. Project Middle Finger was complete. The message had been delivered, and the galaxy, floating in sudden painful gravity, finally began to understand that some species are only quiet until you give them a reason to speak. Humanity had spoken, and the Council, for the first time in 10,000 years, listened. 11 minutes. That is how long it took for the Galactic Council to learn the difference between gentle and weak. 11 minutes after the stars blinked and the lights on Araxia Prime dimmed, the most powerful room in the galaxy became a tomb of its own arrogance. The Grand Chamber, once a cathedral of white marble veined with living starlight, where gravity was optional and fear was a myth, was now a cracked bowl open to vacuum. The transparent dome had spiderwebbed into a lattice of fractures that held only because human engineers had decided for the moment to let it hold. Outside, 11,000 black ships hung in perfect formation, silent, unmoving, patient as grief. Inside, 10,000 delegates floated, then fell. Gravity returned at 1.7 without warning. Beings who had never weighed more than a thought slammed into marble hard enough to crack carapace, shatter crystal, and remind soft tissue what bones were for. The presiding voice of the silicate confluence, 12 meters of perfect diamond lattice, hit the floor and fractured into 11 perfect pieces, each one screaming in a different harmonic. The Vireri trade prince, who had signed the new Kyoto contract, landed on his own ceremonial tentacles and felt them snap like dry twigs. No one died. That was the point. Humanity had spent 31 years learning precision. 11,000 gravitic shear mines had not been fired to kill. They had been fired to teach. Where each mine detonated, reality folded just enough to make physics apologize. The Council's 30,000 warships, pride of 100 civilizations, hulls grown from living song, shields woven from dark energy, ceased to exist as coherent objects. One moment they were a glittering armada. The next, they were art. Spirals of molten alloy, embiased strips of screaming deck plates, frozen statues of crews experiencing their own after-images forever. The ringworld's artificial sun, a caged star that had burned serenely for 6,000 years, coughed once and went dark, a shame. Inside the chamber, every view screen still showed Captain Mei Lin Park's burned, smiling face. Her voice played on loop, gentle as a grandmother telling you the stove is hot after you've already touched it. You declared us weak. You sold our children. This is the second lesson. Jonah Park, 47 now, captain of the Gentle Reminder, once the 16-year-old who asked if one ship was enough, watched from his bridge. His grandmother's final log had just finished its 11th repeat. He did not smile. He simply opened a channel, one way, unjammable, broadcast into every surviving comm system in the sector, and spoke with the calm of a man who had waited his entire life for this moment. This is Captain Jonah Park, Terran Defense Force, commanding Project Middle Finger. 11 minutes ago, you learned what happens when you mistake kindness for frailty. 11 minutes from now, we will leave. In between, you will listen. We do not want your empire. We do not want your surrender. We do not want your fear. We want you to remember one thing. Every human ship you see was built by grandmothers, teachers, farmers, and children who spent 31 years learning how to be loud in the dark. Every weapon you felt was designed not to kill you, but to make you feel, for 11 minutes, what the children of New Kyoto felt when their sky turned to 9. You classified us Tier 9. You were told once that was a mistake. This is the second time. There will not be a third. He let the silence sit for 11 heartbeats. Then he continued, softer. We are going home now. We are taking our silence with us. If you ever sell another child, another world, another hope, we will come back. And next time we will not be gentle. The human fleet did not fire again. They simply turned, engines cold, and vanished into the dark, the way grief vanishes when the funeral ends. Not gone, just waiting for the next unacceptable thing. They left the station intact. They left the delegates alive. They left gravity at 1.7. Just long enough for every being in the chamber to learn what kneeling feels like when you have no choice. 11 minutes after the stars blinked, the council chamber was quiet for the first time in 10,000 years. No one spoke. No one dared. Outside, the wreckage of 30,000 warships drifted in perfect, impossible sculptures. Silent reminders that some species do not break when you push them. They bend, then they push back. Hard. The Virari trade prince, still conscious, tentacles broken, golden ichor pooling beneath him, looked up at the cracked dome and saw, for the first time in his life, real stars. Not the gentle, curated lights of Araxia Prime, real ones. Cold, ancient, waiting. He began to cry. Not from pain, from understanding. 11 minutes. That was all it took for the most powerful beings in the galaxy to learn that some species are only quiet until you give them a reason to speak. And when humanity speaks, the stars themselves shut up and listen. Captain Park's voice played one final time, barely a whisper now, across every surviving speaker in the ruined station. Lesson 2 is over. Be kinder than the galaxy deserves. Or we will be back. And next time, grandmothers will not be gentle. Then silence. Beautiful, terrible, patient silence. The kind that follows a scream. The kind that waits. 11 minutes. That was all it took. And the galaxy, bruised and kneeling in sudden, painful gravity, finally understood. Humans are never weak. We are gentle. There is a difference. And the Council had just been given the most expensive lesson in galactic history to prove it. The fleet was gone. The message remained. And somewhere, in the dark between stars, 11,000 black ships drifted home. Engines cold, peach pits warm, waiting for the next unacceptable thing. Because gentle is a choice, and humanity had just shown the galaxy what happens when you take that choice away. They left one thing drifting in the wreckage of Araxia Prime. A single package, no larger than a child's lunchbox, tumbling end over end through the frozen sculptures of what had once been 30,000 warships. No thrusters. No beacon. Just a small wooden box, hand-carved, still smelling faintly of lemon polish and old coffee, the same scent that had clung to the stubborn mule 31 years earlier. Inside was a peach seedling, rooted in real new Kyoto soil, grown from a pit carried off-world by an 8-year-old girl in a yellow raincoat who never made it to the evac shuttle. The seedling was wrapped in a child's drawing, stick figure family under triple suns, labeled in wobbly crayon for "When we come home." Attached was a note written in 12,000 languages, the human version in the careful handwriting of Captain Jonah Park. Plant this. Water it. Watch it grow. When it bears fruit, eat one peach and remember what gentle tastes like. Then decide if you still want to call us weak. The package drifted for 11 days before a trembling Virari salvage drone recovered it. The Council, what was left of it, met in emergency session under 1.7 that no one dared turn down. They argued for hours about whether to incinerate the box as a biological weapon. The silicate confluence delegate, now 11 separate shards that spoke in overlapping harmonics, voted to space it. The Tovari empathy sphere voted to open it. The Virari trade prince, tentacles and splints, voice a broken whisper, simply stared at the box and began to cry again. They opened it. The seedling was still alive. They planted it in the exact center of the cracked grand chamber floor, in the fracture shaped like a perfect 11-pointed star, where the presiding voice had shattered. They poured water recycled from the tears of 10,000 delegates. They sang no songs. They spoke no prayers. They simply watched dirt meet marble and waited for something to happen. Something did. The tree grew anyway. It pushed through marble like it was soft earth. It drank vacuum and starlight and the ambient grief of a room full of beings who had just learned fear. It grew 11 meters in 11 days, branches spreading into a canopy that caught the emergency lighting and turned it soft pink. It bloomed on the 11th anniversary of the day the stubborn mule became a star. The first peach was small, perfect, the color of a new Kyoto sunrise. The Virari trade prince, the same one who had signed the mining contract, was carried to the tree on a hover stretcher. He had not spoken since the day gravity came back. He reached up with a trembling tentacle, plucked the peach, and bit. He wept so hard his medical alarm screamed. He wept for 11 straight minutes. Then he spoke his first words since the lesson. It tastes like a child saying the sky is still pretty. Word spread. Delegates who had fled returned. Species who had never attended council sessions came as pilgrims. They stood in line for days under 1.7 that no one ever turned down again. They waited their turn to taste a peach grown from dirt that had watched its children die. Some fainted. Some converted on the spot to religions they invented in the moment. Some simply sat beneath the branches and cried until they had no more water to give. The tree never stopped bearing fruit. Every year, on the anniversary now called Stubborn Day, the grand chamber filled with beings who had once ruled galaxies and now stood quietly in line for a peach. They left their weapons at the door. They left their pride. They left their certainty. The council reclassified humanity the same week the first peach ripened. Tier 1. Threat, level, existential. They were still wrong. Humanity never answered the classification. We never attended another summit. We simply went home. The 11,000 black ships dispersed to ordinary lives. Grandparents went back to gardening, teachers to classrooms, farmers to fields. They parked the ships in orbit around Earth, Mars, Luna, and New Kyoto, now regrown from seedlings carried in pockets, and turned the spinal cannons into irrigation arrays. The gentle reminder became a museum orbiting Earth, open to any species willing to remove their shoes and walk barefoot through corridors lined with children's drawings. Visitors still come. They come to see the wooden box on the bridge, still containing the unopened birthday present addressed to Grandma Mei Lin from Hanapi. They come to see the peach tree that shades half the old council chamber, older now, roots cracking marble like gentle fingers opening a fist. They come to eat a peach and leave quieter than they arrived. And every year, on Stubborn Day, Captain Jonah Park, gray now, walking with a cane carved from the stubborn mule's old helm, travels to Araxia Prime. He stands beneath the tree that grew from his niece's drawing. He eats one peach. He cries exactly 11 minutes. Then he records a new message, broadcast on every channel the council still owns. This is Captain Jonah Park, retired. The tree is still growing. The fruit is still sweet. Gentle is still a choice. Choose wisely. He never says anything else. He doesn't need to. The peach trees remember. The galaxy remembers. And humanity, quiet again, gardening, teaching, living, remembers too. We were never weak. We were gentle. There is a difference. And once a year, when the peaches ripen under alien suns and alien beings line up to taste forgiveness they never knew they needed, the entire galaxy is reminded. Some species do not break when you push them. They bend. They wait. They build. And when they finally stand up straight again, they bring a peach. Because the kindest thing you can do to a galaxy that tried to kill your children is to teach it what gentle tastes like. One bite at a time. Forever. The tree still grows. The fruit is still sweet. And somewhere, an 8-year-old girl in a yellow raincoat is still telling the universe that the sky is pretty. She was right. It always was. We just had to remind them.